Hey, and welcome to the Up Zone, where understanding politics is made simple. We are your two hosts, Mr. Elmer Floyd, former House Representative for District 43, and myself, Tisha S. Waddell, represent.
You lost your volume.
You can't hear me?
I see you in a still position.
So I'm frozen. Am I moving yet?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay, perfect. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm just a little disappointed in the voter turnout, but other than that,
I
I'm
know
okay.
it make your back itch, but we'll talk about that in just a second. So let's see. We have a rainy day today. It's cooling off. Our weather's changing. It's starting to feel like a true fall. So everybody be safe out there on the roads. If you're listening to us while you're driving, pay attention to those streets. Mr. Floyd, the gritty in the city, the word on the curb. Let's make our announcements first. We are having um, there's going to be a memorial service for Theodore Ted Mohn. That is going to be this Sunday, October the 15th at 3 p.m. It is open to the public. And so we encourage the public to come out. Mr. Mohn's family will be in town for this memorial service. We want to make sure that they feel our love and feel our support as much as we felt Ted's support of this community. So come on out, 3 o'clock, Sunday, October the 15th at the Bill Crisp Senior Center off of Rim Road. Miss Floyd, will you be there?
Yes, yes, yes.
I know you said
Um,
save you a seat in the back so that
yes.
you do not have to be seated toward the front. But I'm gonna have a seat up front with y'all. It's gonna have a name card on it that's gonna say Honorable Elmer Floyd. I
No, just put it in the back. Let the grateful people sit up front. I'm grateful for
understand.
you,
I
but I
understand.
but
There
I
will
just
be
love
a. I understand. I'm with you, sir. Look, I'm beside you. There is a reception that will follow, a small reception for family and invited guests. So most certainly be in the building to say to show our appreciation for the all of the years of work that Ted poured into this community. Speaking of the work that Ted poured into this community, Mr. Floyd, we certainly felt the void here, over the last few days. And I want us to make sure we touch on that because both of us, I got texts from people. They were like, boy, I miss Ted right now. I was like, man, truly. But so that's the first announcement. There's one more announcement, candidate forum.
yes.
So we are going to have our candidate forum, which is sponsored by who are our sponsors, Mr. Floyd?
Well, we have four sponsors. We have On the Road. We have Rogers Law Firm, and we have Fayetteville Bonding Company and also JJ Press
At
that is
Fayetteville
going to
Press.
put yes. Uh,
Right. And that is going to be on October the 17th at 6 o'clock. It will stream live on our social media platforms.
that's correct.
Okay, so look, Mr. What you tell me? You said Houston what?
Houston, we got problems. You know,
Houston, we definitely
when
have
you
a
have
problem.
when you have 122,000 plus voters, and you have a 8.4% voter turnout, we have a problem in Houston. You know,
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's talk about our problem, Mr. Floyd. Let's talk about this problem. So you can see on this page that there are 127,000 people. So if you look at the bottom left-hand side of the screen, it says ballots cast. There are 127,846 people in North Carolina in the city of Fayetteville that in this election. Out of that 127,846, 10,700 went to the polls and a box, a circle filled in a bubble, and slid it into that machine. So that's 8.4% of eligible to cast a ballot. Now, I have some conjecture as to why that is. I have a few reasons that I believe that it is. But before I jump into feelings and my perspective. Mr. Floyd, why do you think this before we get into these results?
Well, it's we see signs as we spoke earlier. We see
Mm-hmm.
signs. There's not enough data. What I mean by data is that we all pitching in. The private sector, the public sector is letting our employees know that it is a election cycle, and to
Mm-hmm.
allow them, where possible, time to cast a ballot, wherever the ballot, whoever they vote for. We have about 15, 14 to 15 days to cast a ballot. And so, but how published for us. Science, science is a lot, as you mentioned, but they do not carry a date to elect the public, to alert the public about a date for election and that election cycle. It just needs to be more published.
More, it needs to be more discussed. So I
Now
think
that's one.
that that's the one of them. Another
That's one
factor
now.
would be, in your estimation, what's another factor?
It's hard doing a non-presidential election or even year voting to get greater voter turnout because it's not well publicized as a presidential election or even
And it's
voting.
not really, and people don't really perceive this as all that important. And it doesn't matter, like the people that tune into our podcast, they already know or they are learning how important municipal government is. But like, people perceive the presidential election as vastly more important than the municipal elections, which couldn't be further from the truth. That is the perception. And we talked about this offline. If a municipality wanted, if they truly wanted to increase voter engagement, the elections. But you,
That
this municipality, have that conversation.
well, if you shift it to even year, I'm just using the word even, which catches the presidential election, and then quite natural one election cycle will not be a presidential election, but
Right.
it will reduce the cost to the taxpayer and increase voter participation. But when you look at it, like when I went to the poll on election day, I think there was 5 or 6 persons at the polling site, and I was number 47 at 1 o'clock, and those persons making $100+ a day, and the city of Fayetteville had 59 polls open on on that election day. And the reason why, although you had three challenging, races, but there was the mayor race that was that you had to open the poll the 59 for. So a person who did not have a challenger, did not have challengers a race, then the only person that need to be voted on area was the mayor
Was
race.
the mayor. Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's take a look. Let's break down this. Let's just go through this real quick. And it shouldn't take us long because, like you just said, it was only three races that had to be decided in the primary. Let's start at the bottom. District 5. So District 5 is typically referred to as one of the last standing white districts, right? So let's just shoot
Yeah.
straight. That's it's primarily Caucasian people that are voting in District 5 to determine this race. So we see three Caucasian candidates in District 5: Lynn Bissett Green, Johnny Dawkins, and Justin Herbie. Johnny Dawkins being the incumbent. Okay. Now I found this interesting, Mr. Floyd. I'm gonna jump ahead and then I'm gonna back up. Both of the incumbents in the races underperformed in comparison to new candidates, with the exception of the mayoral race. So I was scratching my head. I was like, so y'all think the council is failing, but the mayor's killing it? Like, help me understand. But let's go back to District 5. So we saw in District 5, and these districts have to be evenly distributed. So, like, you will notice that each district has, I want to say, about 22 to 25,000 registered voters in the district. Okay. That's how redistricting is done. They make sure that each similar numbers of registered voters. Out of 20,000, a person was able to move through to the primary with less than 700 votes.
Well, that's the teacher again. That goes to show you that our community and statewide. I mean, even Durham, or they say they had a large voter turnout, which was 11,000. So, but if people know, again, it's sort of like a marketing, either from wherever it's the Board of Election counted, from the Board of Elections to our electronic media to our printed media, is to keep those dates in
Of
in the press.
mind.
Yeah, I mean, then you will have a greater voter turnout. But
Absolutely.
when you look at the cost that's associated with this, I mean, the taxpayer is paying the cost. But if it's
Right.
in again a even number election, we all share in it. When you look at it, the county have to pay, or like Eastover, Stedman, Godwin, Falcon, all those individuals, they are going to have to bear the burden to have a polling site open that they have to pay for an election, where it can be shared if it's a statewide election, which the cost is shared, and it reduces the again. I keep saying that it reduces the cost to the taxpayer. So
Reality to the municipal. So you're not being double taxed. Right.
yeah,
Uh,
I
so
mean,
so
so
so when we look at the race in District 5, Mr. Floyd, what do you think about that? When we see Limbicet Green coming out front and really dominating by about 10% points, what does that say about District 5?
I mean, it lets you know that the voters are concerned about that seat. Now, you also got to look at many voters, because of Dawkins' uh, home in which he purchased in Raleigh for his wife, but he said that he stays in a place here in Fayetteville. That may contribute to the fact that the voters uh, may have said, "Do you live in Raleigh or do you live in Fayetteville?" And
Right.
so that may have been one of the campaign's concerns that the voters had there. The last year, the candidate, yeah, the last year the candidate knew about it but didn't say anything about it. And so I
See, and
don't
I
know
think
if
that I never heard Lynn say anything. Yeah, but I think it speaks more to Lynn than it does to Johnny that she performed the way that she did. Because I think that I think she just probably with that voter base differently than he does. Because Johnny is very
well,
much old. He is too. They're both old fans. They are from the part of fans where that the length of who you know and where you're from and what you do, like these are he could not just stand on that where he is concerned.
again, Tish, you got to look at, although they was concerned that was a year ago, and the 2 year, well, not quite 18 months, 19 months ago, it still resonates in people's mind about the location, whether or not it was mentioned or addressed in District 5. Where my concern was that was in my district,
District 2, yeah, let's go,
again,
let's talk about that.
the reason why I'm saying, because that's the area that I have to cast my ballot in. So that one, I just looked at from a generic standpoint of view, and looked at both persons was able to turn out his or her base. And Dawkins turned out his, but then again, now you got to look at November is a different voting group. It increased in November, so those persons who may not did well in the in the primary may do super well in the general election, because you have more
What is the
people.
likelihood of that, Mr. Floyd? What is the likelihood of that happening?
Well, I mean, November. a lot of people just vote in the general election and don't vote in the primary. So it's a toss up. It's a toss up. You have more people to come out. It's just like in the primary, Evans was leading Freddie in the primary. But once you turn to the election day, you saw a shift in the numbers of the voters as the early voting. See, certain groups vote on election day, and
Right.
certain groups vote in the primary. So you would see a difference. Uh,
I think
if
that
you
these
look at
numbers, though, I think these numbers say that Johnny's in trouble. I think that unless Johnny does something differently, that his seat is well, that District 5 seat is in jeopardy of not being sat in by council member or Mayor Pro Tem Dawkins in the very near future. I think that's what those numbers say to us. And I think as we look at District 2, and I kind of called that one when I looked at this race, I said to myself, I said, self, I believe that this is a formidable opponent for Mayor Pro Tem Dawkins. I think that Limbisette Green comes with her own resume, her own experience. She understands how government works. That's crucial. She has an understanding. So she is somebody who can go into this position and go to work. She's not somebody who has to come in with a vast learning curve. She can come in and she can go to work. And I think that when you're dealing with a certain voter population, that matters to them. I think that's also, I'm going to jump up one position. I think that's also one of the things that permitted the mayor to fare as well as he did in his race. But I was scratching my head, and I called this one too because I said it's either going to be Charles and Freddie or Mitch and Freddie. I knew it wasn't going to be Charles and Mitch. I knew that one of them would cancel the other. I just didn't know which one. But when you that people remember the discrepancy with Johnny, why is it that people often and readily forget the discrepancy with the mayor? What's the
well,
difference populations that causes one person for their residency questions to be enough for them to potentially lose their seat, but another ethical violation to not matter, and we continue to bring this person back to this position?
you have to look at base.
So
That's the
you're
key.
saying so one base cares about your behavior and one base doesn't.
I'm just saying, in an off year election, an incumbent is going to fare well because he or she is able to turn out his base, which is a narrow group of people. And if you look at the percentages, you're talking about 122,000 people that didn't even cast a ballot. So
Yeah,
if
but
who in turn
Mitch beat the next person by 40%. Johnny
base that
lost by 11%. But
base
I'm
Q,
just but Mr. Floyd, but the question is, why doesn't Mitch's base care about his background, whereas we're saying Johnny's base may?
I'm just saying you're talking about a different. You're talking about a predominantly white district over here, and you're talking about a minority district over here, which for years the family have was the last person that touched his or her family member. Family known, okay, and those are the older voters who turned out. Chief. Now, when you look at it, there was a lot of discussion, and we talked about this. There was a lot of discussion about driving while black. There was a lot of discussion, and that's the group that Evans has a strong relationship with. Uh, those individuals who, uh,
Police
and
regulations,
yeah, that's
yeah.
that's that's Evan base. Evan was not able to draw or push or motivate his base to come out. I mean, when you look at it, we're talking about those groups that wanted to have a police community advisory board, the
Right.
homeless coalition, the millennium group. All of these groups, where were they on election day? Those were Charles. That's the kind of base that Charles had. But these individuals will come to a council meeting, come to a county board of commissioner meeting, come to an board of education meeting, and they will rattle out their concerns. And if it's about curfew, But on election day and 14 days on the election cycle, they don't show up.
Yeah, and
So
I told one
so
of my, I
how
told, go ahead.
no, I mean they don't show up. So you stand in there and want to demand a council person or a commissioner or any elected official anything when he looks down on a piece of paper and see that your precinct, and you can go back and check the polling place. I mean, check the board of election and see, teach, if you voted, not who you voted for, but they can see whether or not you cast a ballot. It don't take no
So I
rocket
was
science. You can do that on your cell phone.
right. So I will say outside of the base, because I think the argument of long memory, I don't think it holds for either of these candidates because I think that in general people have short memories where indiscretions are concerned. I think what this says to me is that the voting population that consistently comes out holds one of two positions. And let's be real, the voting population that comes out in a race like this, Mr. Floyd, is again, you called one of the groups, it's going to be your older black population. And there's a loyalty that just comes with that population that is unquestionable sometimes. And they can see you with the gun in your hand, but if they love you or and they like you, it's all right. We you
That's
know,
my
we
see.
we
That's
gonna
my
figure it
party.
out.
That's
Right.
my
But the
party.
other
That's the
but the
Democrat
other
Party.
Absolutely. But the other side of that coin of who consistently will come out to vote are those who have an interest in the outcome of these elections. So your builders, your developers, your economic development drivers. And so when you see that, you can know when you see numbers like this, you can expect that some of this, of course, is that older black voter base. That's just like, baby, it's okay no matter what, we with you, right? There's some of that. But the
And
vast
people,
majority of this is an indicator that there are people who stand to gain with the policies and the processes that Mitch is putting in place. What this community needs to ask themselves is who are those individuals and is it us? Is it the working class? Is it the day-to-day people? We have to begin to ask ourselves these questions, and we cannot remain oblivious to the fact that this is not a homecoming queen or king election. We're not voting on who's the prettiest and who's the most popular. We are voting on who will move this community in the direction that it needs to go and do so ethically and with the right
but
motive.
see, I mean, I understand that, but you have to say that 8.5% is telling the
I don't
129
disagree.
what
I
they
don't
want.
disagree.
And
But
so
even that
why are you going to
8%,
complain?
that 8% needs to wise up. This is what
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
saying. The 8% needs to wise up. They
so when the other people come and talk to the council and demand that they don't do A, B, C, the council look at them. Okay, let me let you finish your little 3 minutes. Okay, and then
right.
we keep moving our agenda
Because
forward.
there's no investment. There's no investment in having that conversation because you're not going to vote for me anyway.
Once they
Yeah.
so that's the whole thing. As an example, you know, uh, you know, you would have thought that the best person to unseat Mitch would have been Charles,
Well,
based
that
upon
was that
his
would have been
overall vote.
his ability to drive votes. And that and I told y'all this, I told the audience this, when I saw that letter. I sent Mitch a text and I said, well, you finally have a formidable opponent. Well, I owe Mitch and Charles an apology because the formidable opponent seems to have been Freddie De La Cruz. Because
No,
Freddie is the
wait a
one.
minute. Wait a minute now. You got to look at it. Charles Charles had Charles had 40 some thousand each time that he ran.
Absolutely.
Each time
Absolutely.
he ran. So that's one thing. But you got to look at you know Charles just came off a U.S. House seat,
And
and in December,
in that election than he did in this election.
but in December, after that November election, Charles immediately began to look at a the material was a North Carolina, whether it be House or Senate, but it was very generic. He
Mm-hmm.
began to solicit to have a fundraiser for a brunch on June the 10th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, people contributed to Charles because they thought that Charles was going to run for a North Carolina, whatever that is, House
Mm-hmm.
or Senate. But Charles said that he was going to run for District 43. Okay.
Right.
Now, now, all of a sudden, the voter say he said that he went to a community watch meeting, and they asked him, "Why don't you run for the council seat?"
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Y'all then changed from that to the mayor, and then people would look at that. What do you want to do?
Yeah,
You
but
know,
that's just, but
what
Mr.
are you?
Floyd, that's just those people. It takes me back to what we were just talking about. We cannot have long memories where one person is concerned about minor things like that and have short memories about major indiscretions. Like we need to be consistent in how we apply our perception. But let me say
But you're
this, because I
talking.
don't want anybody to think that I'm mad about Mitch winning his primary, because I'm really not. Because if you also will refer back to what I said before even filed to run, I said I think that this city should send every one of these council people back into their position and let them deal with whatever the fallout is going to be from this voodoo economics that they did with this last budget, because there's going to be some fallout, and I just think that they should all have to go back in there and deal with that, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case.
What
Let's look at.
what teach you talk about short memory. Let's let me throw this in there,
Go
and
ahead.
then we can talk about Uber. Okay. We built the same group. We built a four-story garage next to the baseball stadium, and now, but you didn't put an elevator in there. I mean, come on, and let's be real. I mean, but you still want the same people to do the same thing, going forward. A four-story building with no elevator. I mean, but you want the taxpayer to pay for it. Okay, so you have to look at it from an all-round standpoint of view. Commissioner Evans was the best person, but you have to have a base, and your base must be turned out. And that's why it is best for some people to have it on off year election.
Absolutely. So let's look at District 2, because this was one again that I kind of called to go the way that it went. I did think it was a bit more of a toss. Davis would do well, and I knew that Shakila was going to have to work hard in order to stay competitive in this race, because anytime anytime a an incumbent, six people stand up and say, I want to run against you, then that says this incumbent has an uphill battle to maintain this
Houston, we
position.
have problems.
We have a problem. Absolutely. Go ahead. Let me tell you what I thought was interesting. When we came um out of the first sets of numbers, Laura Rodriguez Musler was performing very well. She was within about 9 votes of being able to overtake Miss Ingram. That number diminished. If you notice, she was able to pull almost, I think she's in about votes of the incumbent, she was able to pull almost as many votes. So that says if she would have knocked on one more neighborhood, or if she would have just pushed out one more blast, or this may have been a different race. So what does this say? I mean, Malik ran away with it. He was 13 points
What
ahead of the incumbent.
what teach, you look at it. We're talking again. Some kind of way, Mr. Davis, a campaign material looks similar to another candidate.
To the mayors,
And
I'll say it. You don't have to.
I'm not,
He and the
I mean,
mayor have similar campaign materials.
I'm just speaking, not
Right.
pointing the finger at
Sure, but the conjecture in the community has been, because see, this is, and Mitch, he said something on, because I finally went and listened to it. Mitch said something on Goldie's program where he was talking about let me get it out. Let me get it out. The
get it out.
building building a council, and he was saying to to Charles Evans, if we could pick the people we served with, that would take, he says, but I want to remind everybody, Mr. Floyd, and you know this, it is in the person's best interest who is the board to influence the board as much as possible, to influence the composition of that board as much as possible, because it helps them to be able to drive what they want to get done. If I can help some people get elected that I went out and said I'm gonna help you, that creates what I
But
perceive.
teach, that's the same thing the governor did to Kurt. He came to Fayetteville and said, "You all are not smart enough to vote, but this is the person that I say that can best help me in doing my job, and this is who I want you to vote for." And
Hmm.
that's what you did. You voted for that person and unseated the other person because somebody told you who they wanted to serve. So
Right.
that's politics. If you are not well astute to see that, and then again, when I got these notices, the first thing I looked at was a neighbor helping North Carolina. Now that had to come from somebody in the
PAC
cloud with
money.
somebody support,
That's PAC money.
in order to do that. So I'm very leery about the same thing you just mentioned. How can a freshman first term running can get a group to help back his campaign? You know, I mean, I got three flyers, reference listed, very polished flyers, and look at the
Yeah.
voters. If they get this, I mean, those five plus individuals that received the votes for him, also looked at the flyers and say, "Oh,
Right.
this is the best person to vote for," because they
Right.
got flyers, they got mailers. But did
And
you go back?
Ingram should be kind of she should this is what you got to know as an incumbent. When you see, and I'm gonna lay it out, when you see the mayor put his foot on the scale in any way for somebody against you, you need to know that if you win your next term, be hell on earth, because that is what happened to me. You remember this man came out in the newspaper and made a whole statement about me not on my job, and he was endorsing a write-in candidate over me. And I just chuckled because I was like, well, you still gonna have to deal with me. That's what I was thinking. And when I got reelected and we swore in and you walk by and you shake everybody's hand, I said you stuck with me for the term. And he laughed and said you stuck with me too. But that's the reality. And she needs to know. She can see the writing on the wall. She needs to know that if she defeats Malik Davis in this general election, this term is going to be a difficult term for her because the writing is on the wall
No,
that he
I
is
don't
trying to
think. I
replace
don't
her.
think. One thing you got to look at: no term is difficult for a politician if he or she is able to leverage the one thing that they have, which all
Which is
nine
your
council members
which is your
have. Oh,
vote. He
if
won't. But this the thing, Floyd. This is the thing. Will he need her? Because if you're working to build your council, the only thing that could really shift this right now is if Lynn Green is elected. Because
teach,
if Johnny beats Lynn, he won't need her as a
teach,
vote.
that is in mind, teach. Every issue has different representation.
Mr.
Okay, so don't
Floyd,
so don't
I
count
want
me
you to
out.
look
No,
at I want you
don't
to
count
look
me
at
out.
this no sir, I want you to
No,
look at the history of this council. You have new council members who came on board and automatically just went along with what it is. Don't you
teach.
got to I know what you're saying, but you got to look at the history under the leadership of this council. That's not the reality of this board.
But I'm saying, what I'm just simply saying, if you want to fit in to sit in, as you know, Dudu always say, then you need to look at that person. But one responsibility that that person who is elected from a district has a
Is to
responsibility first
do for their
to
district.
his or her district.
That's
And I
right.
don't know where you all get this idea from that I mean, yes, I'm on the city council, but I didn't run a statewide. I mean, I did not run
No,
a
the
city.
only person who did that is the mayor.
That's it. So
That's
my
right.
responsibility to the
It's to my
district
district.
and what I can improve the quality of life in my district. Now I'm willing to sit down with you and negotiate with you on the other districts, meaning the city as a whole. But
Right.
the first, that's my first responsibility. Is it the mayor or anyone else? No. And that's the thing that caused me my concern in Raleigh is that my party didn't like me because I represented my district. And I
Right.
will continue as a person to represent my district. I had no obligation to any other. They didn't vote for me.
Right.
And so that's the problem. So if you can stack the deck like they did in Cumberland County, and they say that you in Cumberland County, Teach Waddell, can't vote, can't think, let me help you think and vote. This is how Teach, I want you to vote. You're crazy.
Right. Right.
You're crazy. I mean,
Right.
so when you look at it, I mean, you find a friend. That's what the governor did. So, I mean, I look at Malik Flyers. You know, I I help build, and that's the name of
Right.
the game.
Right. It is what it is. So at this point, we look ahead to the general election where we will have the mayoral race where it's going to be Freddie De La Cruz and Mitch Colvin, the incumbent. We look at District 1 where it will be Kathy Jensen and Alex Rodriguez. We look at District 2 where it will be Malik Davis and Shaquila Ingram, the incumbent. We look at District 4 where it will be uh, say his name, Floyd.
Huh? District 4?
District 4.
I got, wait a minute. I got so many
He's
papers.
why can't I worked with the man for 4 years? Why I can't think of it? Because sometimes when you're not memorable, you're not memorable.
I got it right here.
Been there for forever. He been there for forever, Floyd.
With DJ Hare?
DJ Hair, thank you.
Okay, I got something
he
about that.
and he's got a challenger. I can't think of the challenger's name, so if you can say that, that'd be great. But I think DJ's safe. He'll slide through because his district loves him. And then you've got District 5 where you've got Limbisette Green and Johnny Dawkins. District 6 has no challenger. District 7 has no challenger, and so you'll see Derek Thompson and what's her name, the one that Troy helped.
Miss from Lofton.
No, no, the one that Troy helped last time.
Oh, that's what's her name?
Brenda McNair.
Yeah,
So you'll
yeah,
see
Brenda
you'll see
McNair.
them come back. And then for District
And then
8,
Miss
we have
McLaughlin.
that's
Yeah,
yep. So you got Miss McLaughlin coming back, and then District 9, you're gonna see no district. She's District 9. So District 8, you're gonna see between Fred Leisha. I can't think of her last name, but her and Dino are gonna face off. She and Dino will face off against each other
yeah.
in the general election. So everybody has competition except for 6, 7, and
And
9.
eight. And now eight. Is it eight?
No, it's
Is eight?
9. She's okay. You might be right because I always get the two of those mixed up.
Yeah.
So there are 3 districts that won't have any competition, but other than that, is we're set to have a pretty full slate.
Now,
Floyd, go ahead.
now, bear in mind now, in the 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 polls gonna open up at I think it's the 19th.
The 18th. It might be the 19th. I think
The
you're right.
19th, which is a Thursday.
Hmm.
Okay, and they are going to run to November the 4th.
Right.
There is and please keep in mind that there is an additional polling site, which is Cliffdale
Okay.
Recreation. The Board of Election is going to be open from 8 to 5.
Hmm.
And on the last, by law, they have to be open that Saturday. And that's normally from 8 to 3.
Okay.
The other is that Cliffdale will be open from 12 to 7. So voters should not be confused to think that it's going to be open at 8 o'clock,
Hmm.
like the Board of Election. There's two different elections, I mean, two different times. Again, Cliffdale Rec Center, which is going to be from 12 to 7, okay? And
Hmm.
then the Board of Election from 8 to 5. Now, on the election day, which is the second now, Teach, I'm going to text you because you're my friend. I'm going to say, Teach, go to your polling site on November the 7th. Don't go to the early voting site. You will lose time and you may not be able to get to your polling site to cast your ballot. So
Right.
if
And
you're
if you
not,
don't know your polling site, send us a message and we'll help you find it. Like if you need any help finding any of this information, send us a message, send us an email, and we will help you find it. You can email us at upzone, I think it's upzone9 or upzonenc at gmail.com. And you can message us on Facebook or you can even drop a message on our YouTube page. But just let us know. We'll help you figure all of this out. Mr. Floyd, what's going on in Raleigh right now?
right now, there's the governor has filed a lawsuit concerning the supermajority taking away his power to a point. And then there's another lawsuit that's being filed that we had talked about, probably the same, is that the observer on the election day. And I mentioned to you at that particular point in time that I had a problem with that portion of the bill, that as not a lot of problem, but that one with the person being an observer. That observer is going to cause a lot of problems at the polling site, because when you first go into the polling site, certification is provided, and that's the ID. Whatever that qualified ID that you present, and that person recognize that as it relates to the qualification of ID that is designated. Now, the observer can walk around in there and ask you, uh, "Can I see your ID?" as an example, or stand
Mm-hmm.
close by as you cast your ballot. Or as you cast your ballot and put it in the machine, if you don't turn it down, he or she can be able to look at who you voted for. And I think that that is going to create a problem for some people, because they consider voting is a very secret thing,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to be frustrated when you impeding that the votability.
Their
That
space, right?
and that's
Yeah.
their space thing.
Yeah,
That
because
is
that's
their
like going
prime.
to the bathroom. You don't want somebody looking over your shoulder while you're in the bathroom.
Yeah. See, so
Yeah,
that could be
this
a
is
problem.
private time. Mhm.
Yeah, that gonna be that is gonna be a problem, and they're looking at that part of the of the law. Again, I wish it that it would not, but you can see, given our society today, that it can lead to a problem too.
Absolutely. Floyd, let me say this one more time because I just want to be super duper clear about this. I want to congratulate every individual that made it through the primary. I think that whether you got there through some strategy or whether you got, it is an accomplishment that you have made it through the primary into the general election. Do I want Mitch to still be the mayor? Absolutely not. Am I going to be upset if he wins? Absolutely not, because I'm only one citizen and this is an entire city. And I think that the majority is supposed to determine who the representative is. Problem is, the minority is coming out to vote. And the majority is so frustrated or is so apathetic that, as you always say, the minority is running the majority. But listen, because Mitch, I know you watch. You won't come on, but I know you hear about this. So I want you to know I'm congratulating you. And Floyd, I tell him this every time I see him. I don't have no hard feelings at all against him. But just like he don't want me to be the mayor, I don't want him to be it either. And
It
it
just
doesn't mean we mad at each other. It just means that we
then
see something.
what you ought to do is to run for mayor. I mean,
Mr. Floyd, I'm gonna tell you,
it's not
and
me.
I told you this. And if it wasn't for, I'm gonna tell you something. I am a child of God, and I believe that when God tell you something, you do what He say. I believe that if I ran for, He told me be done with this. I'm done with it. I love the work, love it. And if God ever said to me, "Okay, girl, I changed my mind. You can go back," I think I'm probably one of the only people that could beat Mitch. I really
Well,
do.
then you
But
ought
I
to. I mean, my concern of it is truly is not Mitch seat.
It's not.
Okay,
It's the people's seat. The
okay, so
people of
let's
the
make
seat.
sure.
That's right. And I think the problem, Floyd, is that people are afraid of him. They're afraid. Like who? Why be scared to run your race? But no, I'm not. Listen, could take that off the table. I don't want anybody running that rumor. I'm not thinking about running for mayor. It is not on my mind. It is not in my heart. I am good where I'm at.
Yeah. You have a right. You have a right to cast a ballot for
That's
whichever
right.
candidate that you think can
That's
best
right.
serve you. I
That's right.
mean,
And if
just
I
like
want to go in there and write Mickey Mouse's name on the thing, I can do
now,
that.
now that you mentioned that, now someone have said that there may be a write-in candidate.
Lord have mercy. I already got on Janine about doing that 2 years ago. What? That's a no. It's a no. It's
No,
a
no,
no.
I'm just sharing right now. Now, you know we have to make politics simple. You know,
Yeah.
a
Mr.
person
Floyd, what does that
can,
process look like, sir, for somebody to do a write-in campaign?
like a snowball living downstairs with fire. Okay, if you understand what I
Ah,
mean, downstairs with
yeah.
fire.
You ain't got a chance in hell.
It's gonna be hard because if you look at the 14, if you look at the window teeth, we're talking about a very narrow window, and people are going to start voting on the 19th.
Yeah.
You
You
think
gotta,
that
it's a
you
lot
can?
of work. That's a lot of
Well,
work. And if Charles couldn't pull it off, and he was on the ballot. Yeah.
I mean,
And
and
Floyd,
I
my hat is
commend.
off. My hat is off to people who do that because but my hat is off to you if you do that from the beginning. But like these people who you lose, and when you lose you come back and still run it right in. No, you lost. They said no already. Go back, regroup, do it again.
Well, teach that when I my first term in serving the General Assembly, there was a person that filed a complaint, said that I prevented him from being on the ballot, and they corrected
Okay.
that and said I had no statutory authority to determine the makeup of the ballot. But make a long story short, what came out of that was that a legislation that I introduced is that a candidate that filed for office and run for the office cannot file for as a write-in candidate for that same office. He can do it for another office, but he could
That's
not do
me.
it.
Don't read that. That's for me. Don't read that right now.
Okay. But what I'm saying to you, Teach, is that we all, and again, how do we do that? And if you can get people to come on board that is willing to follow your vision, you know, that's that's politics, and that's what happened. Again, I repeat, in my case, is that I was a individual thinker, and I did not comply with the executive branch decisions because I was elected from a district. And
Right.
people just say, hey, if the governor said that, then he must be,
Right.
you know, Paul,
Right.
if you
Yeah.
understand what I mean. So let me follow Paul.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but,
Let
but
me
I
let
do
me tell you, Floyd. Look, I'm gonna tell you something. Um, Politics ages a person. You know what I'm saying?
every time.
It
You can
really
look at
does. And I'm gonna tell you, if it's there's no greater motivation for me to stay out of politics than the fact that I am losing weight, my skin is better, I'm sleeping well. Like I'm good. I'm good. So
well,
Floyd, I again I look, I just have to keep saying this. I commend everybody that's in this race. I wish you the best. I am praying for all of our candidates that are moving through to the general election.
well, I do.
Because yeah, because at the end of the day, listen to that when we get off the podcast. That's interesting what I just sent you. But I am at the point right now where, and I say this all the time, I go back to what I read when the people asked Solomon for a king in the Bible. And God, he went before God and he was like, "What am I to do?" And God said, "Give them what they asking for." Now I'm paraphrasing. He said, "But just you need to let them know this person is gonna rule over you. They're gonna rule over your kids. They're not gonna be fair. Like this, you asking for something that's not in my will, but I'm gonna let you have it." And we see that play out time and time again. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so, it takes a unique and special individual to be able to know when enough is enough, and to be able to walk away from the spotlight, walk away from the applause, walk away from the appearance or the perception of being in control and being in charge, and let somebody else with new vision, new insight, and a fresh conscience come on in the door.
Well, Lynn Green has mentioned that she favors 6 term limits.
There
It's a
should be
12.
term limits.
Okay, she favors that. Okay, and
That's a
she is.
lot. 6 term limits?
That's 12 years.
Yeah, I
Some
need
people
her
say
to bring that down to three. Three
now.
terms.
When you look at the governor, he has 8 years. I mean, he can only serve 2 terms, which is
Right.
8 years.
Right.
And so when you look at that, that's the question that ought to be asked. Do you favor term limits, or do you favor? Also, would you support changing the election cycle to even years?
Yes, those
See,
are great questions.
I mean, those, that's the concern. And what I'm saying to you as my friend, you know, and I
It
asked
ain't
you,
gonna happen.
I asked the question, where was all of these groups during the election? See, so if you have a concern, you have to participate.
Or you
You know,
gotta shut up.
well,
Or you gotta shut up.
that's a
Cause Floyd,
concern.
I'm telling you, look, I was not gonna vote this time. I really wasn't. Cause I was like, I don't really care. Like whoever win, they gonna do what they gonna do. But let me
See,
tell you,
that's what I'm talking about. That
the
minority.
only but
That's
but
you part of that minority that
no, but
want
I
the
voted.
majority to
But
control.
I voted. Let me tell you why I voted, Floyd. This is why I voted. Because I am a believer that if you don't vote, shut up. So because I knew we was gonna keep talking about these people,
I mean, that's why. I mean, normally I would vote. Like on an even year voting, I would vote at a early voting site,
early vote,
but
yeah,
only in the primary. It's a job voting at the board of elections. So
it
I
is.
just
You got,
support
I got it, I
that.
got it, I got it. I'm good, I'm good. Yeah,
God voted at the board of elections, so I just wait to the election day. But
yeah.
I'm going to participate in every election. I'm going to do that because some gave some and some gave
Some good.
all,
Yeah.
so I can participate.
I'm gonna
And
do
so
it because I'm gonna keep talking about folks. When you see me stop voting, you can know we about to end the podcast because that means I'm done talking about it. But I let me say this also because I thought this was a nice touch. I just got to mention one more thing. I went over to the Cliffdale Rec Center to prepare for not Cliffdale. I went over to the Bill Crisp Center to prepare for Ted's memorial, which is again on October the 15th, which is Sunday at 3 p.m. open to the public. When I went over there, I was going to just wrap up some loose ends, and I got out the car, and two people got out, and they had on Mitch's t-shirts, and the t-shirts were pink. And I'm gonna tell you why I thought that that was a nice touch. So you got to give credit where credit is due. It is October. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And immediately, top of mind, when you see that pink shirt, you think, well, that's a nice, it's nice that you thought about that and that you are aware of that. And I'm going to say this, Floyd, I'm going to give the kudos to his woman because I believe she thought about that touch because that was a distinction that I have not seen in years prior. I've never seen any other candidate go that route. I thought it
well,
was
T,
just it was a little sprinkle of, it was some sprinkle.
well, T, you know, in November, I was the only candidate that said that I support women
Women's.
reproduction rights.
Yeah, I know. I
Okay.
know.
I mean, because that was a concern that I thought that that population, me, women,
Right.
want to control their own bodies. So
Right.
I campaigned off that, you, but no other candidate was out there
Right.
support women reproduction rights.
Right. Well, I mean, them pink t-shirts didn't make me vote for him, but I just thought it was a nice touch.
Well, I mean, whoever you
And
vote
clearly
for,
he did not need my vote, clearly because 60 over, 60% of the people that voted for him. So he did not need my one little vote.
I mean, you have a right to cast your ballot any way that you want to. The only thing that I'm happy that you voted. I
And
don't.
that's what Ted, look, that's what Ted would say. Oh, I forgot to mention, those were the phone calls I've been getting. The text messages and the calls. I miss Ted because he would have had this broken down. He would have been telling us how much it cost and how much the votes were. Like he would have had, and I was like, yeah, because that is not my lane, Mr. Floyd. And I don't
I,
think it's yours either. Yeah. And we just
my,
don't have that anymore. And so our community is still experiencing and feeling the loss of our beloved Ted Mohn. So y'all come out October the 15th. Tune in October the 17th. Mr. Floyd, what you want to leave our people with?
there's so much good in the best of us that we'll demonstrate today that it behooves none of us to talk about the rest of us.
I'm gonna
And,
talk.
and we
I'm gonna
said
talk
we're
about
not
y'all.
talking about people. We're just simply sharing with you
The
information
process.
so that you can process the information and make better sound decisions
That's
as you
good.
look at the book that you want to represent you.
That's good. Because what we're not going to do is drag your character when it comes to how you live your personal life, unless it has something to do with your professional execution of your job. Because when you close your doors at home, that's your business, unless you make it our business. That is your business. Yep.
That is
And your kids don't have nothing to do with this. And this ain't about none of that. It's about your job and how you execute the responsibilities of your office.
But the unique thing of it is, Teach, that I see that every time they do something, they go back. Your son or your daughter is 60. They go back and say your 60-year-old daughter. Okay, that's what they do. Or there's always two things that they do. They say Teach Waddell 16. Okay,
Yeah.
right after they mention your name, and they
Yeah.
put that in parentheses. What age got to do with it? I mean, we're
Right.
living longer today and healthy.
Baby. When they
Okay.
put my age in the newspaper, I said, I'm glad I'm not one of those women who cares about people knowing how old I am because y'all telling all my business.
I mean, but they do that, and that's sort of to me is a discriminatory act because when you look at it, we're living younger and longer, and we
Right.
are healthier today than we were back then because of technology.
Absolutely. Shout out to my neighbor. We were just talking about that, Miss Sylvia Moore. We were discussing, how people are just, they're living longer. They're living longer and they're living better than some of these people who are 35. Like they're in better health and because y'all don't eat all the crap that these 20-year-olds are eating. So, yeah, cheers to that. Well, look, we pushing the hour, Mr. Floyd. I'm looking forward to the general election. I believe that it's going to be interesting. I'm gonna write down when we get off of this podcast today. I'm gonna write down my predictions and I'm gonna text them to you. And I don't want you to say nothing to nobody, but when it comes out, I believe I'm gonna have at least 90% of this nailed down.
Well, 90, I think I have 99.
I believe you will.
I think I have
And
99.
I'm not gonna send you what I want to happen. I'm gonna send you what I think is gonna happen. And we will catch y'all. Y'all make sure you like, share, subscribe, follow, do all of that. Tune in over the next couple of days. Make sure that you are being a part of what we have going on. We look forward to talking to you next week.
Take
And
care.
that's it. That's it. That's the gritty in the city word on the curb. We'll catch you next week.